Who do you think is your consumer today?
I think globally we see a lot of youngsters have taken up to single malt whiskey in a very big way.
How do you think the Indian single malt category and the market today in India has evolved?
Well, I mean, everybody wants to be in India now.
What is the bifurcation in terms of the international and national business today for Amrut? Is it a profitable business to be in today? Would you recommend somebody who wants to enter this business?
It's not worth it to be in the mass market. Probably achieve volumes in the next couple of years, probably, but then you're not going to make any money out of it.
Price of rupees say 100 of a product that Amrut manufactures.
Right.
Can you give me a breakdown of what is the amount of tax that you pay, and then what would be probably the production cost, and then like the bottom line? Now we all know Amrut Whisky, but do you know what it's taken to actually make Amrut Whisky Amrut in today's day and age? Now, in my conversation today, I spoke to Rakshit Jagadale, who's the managing director of Amrut Distilleries and also the third generation from the Jagdale family, the owners of Amrut Distilleries. Now, this is a very interesting conversation. The reason is because I know Rakshit for many years, and I also knew his father, who was the late Shri Nilkant Rao Jagdale. In this conversation, we've actually spoken about what is Amrut's journey and how it became so big. Because Amrut, along with a couple of others, is literally responsible for putting Indian single malt onto the global map. All of the popularity that everybody else enjoys today is actually because one of the players is Amrut for that. Now, apart from that, we've answered and spoken about so many other things, whether they're looking for investors or not, whether there's an IPO coming or not, what is the current situation or scenario in the industry, and how do Indian products actually do, and his advice for anybody who really wants to enter the Alcobev industry as well. So a lot of this, a really good conversation, a very heart-to-heart, I would say. Of course, this is possible, as I said, in the previous one. If you haven't seen, then I also last week aired the episode with the Bacardi India MD, who's Vinay Golikeri. The link should be coming here in the cards. Now, all of this is possible because we published this magazine called Ambrosia, which is Asia's largest circulated magazine and also the most popular and oldest magazine in the industry. We're in the 32nd year of our publication, and also it's a product which is extremely close to my heart. Now, what's interesting is that we also organize something called Inspirit 2025, which is in the 20th year of celebration, and it is coming in March to Gurgaon, which is at Le Méridien. The tickets for that are going to be here. It is a great evening with a lot of music, a lot of fun, great food, and very importantly, very good cocktail and spirits. So take a look at those tickets, bring your squad. It'll be great, great fun. I assure you that. And see you in the next one. Hi, Rakshit.
Hello, Bhavya.
And welcome to Expert Talk with Bhavya Desai. Really excited about our conversation today. Not just from a perspective because of course, Ambrosia, and because we've been in the industry for so long and known each other for so long, but just purely from a perspective of also a fan of Amrut, because great products, a great portfolio as well, and largely, of course, also because of what Amrut has done for the Indian single malt per se globally.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Bhavya. Thank you. A very exciting time in the industry now.
Yes.
To wait and see how things unfold here.
Great. Okay. So to build the narrative, I was actually looking at the conversation to be from a perspective of the journey of Amrut. Of course, a little bit of a backgrounder. I know many of the industry people might know, but for the general public who might not be aware of a lot of these things, I want to kind of build that for them, and then go on to the product, industry, international and both Indian, and then a little bit of a personal touch as well, because I'd love for you to give your insights and your perspective to budding entrepreneurs, who obviously would love to enter this industry. I know it's a difficult industry to be in,
Yes.
but yet you
Yes.
see so many new products which have come in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, sure. Definitely. Yes. Looking forward to the conversation. Yeah.
Great. So first up, I mean, of course, your grandfather,
Yep.
he started Amrut in 1948.
Absolutely. Yes.
And at that point of time, the portfolio was rums.
Yeah.
What was that? And I don't want to go that much back into the history.
Right. Okay.
But what was the pivotal point where Amrut decided to take that plunge into becoming an Indian single malt player?
Okay. As you know, going back in time, a company was established in 1948. We have two iconic brands, or heritage brands as we call. One is the Silver Cup Brandy and Amrut Triple X Rum.
Yes.
Silver Cup Brandy is the company's first brand, launched in 1948, and Amrut Rum sometime in the 1950s. I would say the graduation from regular flavored brands or flavored spirits.
Right.
We moved on to premiumization way back in 1975.
Oh.
The pivotal point obviously would be my father, joining the business in 1972. In 1975, we were one of the, I would say, initial distilleries to start grape brandy distillation over here in Bangalore.
Right.
Bangalore even today is famous for its very unique varietal of grapes known as Bangalore Blue, which is not good for making wine, but it's good for making brandy. You can make excellent brandy out of that.
Yes.
So we started that in 1975 first, and then in 79 we started malt distillation at this very site, which is today in the heart of the city.
Right.
And it's very historic property for Amrut. So in 1979 we started with malt distillation. Basically, for both brandy and for malt, we began to use it in our blends. Brands like Bijoy's Blended Grape Brandy was launched in 1977, 1978, 1976, 1977, and Prestige Blended Malt Whisky in 1981-82. So whatever grape spirit and malt spirit that we produced, we were maturing it. We had a very small maturation warehouse over here, and we were using it as a portion of it was blended into these two brands. And moving along in the mid 1980s, yet another famous brand called Macintosh came on board, and we were maturing the malt for a much longer period. City was growing. It was 1987, so we moved a little bit on the outskirts of Bangalore in a place called Kambipura, which is about 25 kilometers from Bangalore city center. My father bought land there, and we moved the distillation completely to that location, and that has been the home of Amrut now for almost close to 4 decades now.
Right.
Yeah, and we began to we increased our distillation capacity, and we began to lay stocks for maturation. We began to use more of matured malt in our blends. So what happened is 1990, 1991, globalization happened. Markets opened up in India. Seagrams came in with their advertising blitzkrieg for Royal Stag, and that was something which we hadn't seen, and that changed the name of the game completely. People shifted from drinking heavier blended whiskies like Macintosh or Peter Scott or Royal Challenge into drinking lighter whiskies like Royal Stag. And what happened was we did not stop distilling. We kept on distilling, and we kept on maturing malts in our warehouses. We knew we made exceptionally good malt whiskey. So again, fast forward to 2001, I joined the family business in 99 post my graduation in business studies, and worked under my father for 2 years till 2001. And then he shipped me off to Newcastle upon Tyne, Northeast England, to do my MBA. And the UK MBAs are generally 1 year, most of the master's degrees, and it's very intense. So at the end of that, for the last 3 months, you have to come up with the thesis. I was walking down, there's a famous shopping street. It was on a Sunday, I still remember, it was at 10 o'clock in the morning. I got a call from my father. He asked me what, I said, I'm just taking a walk down Northumberland Street in Newcastle city centre. And then he said, what are your thoughts on doing the project? And I said, I want to do a theoretical project. I was keen to do it on supply chain management. He said, no, you should do a practical project. Why don't you check whether there's a scope of marketing Amrut as a single malt whiskey in the Indian restaurants within Great Britain? Because beers like Cobra and Kingfisher are very popular even now.
Yes.
So why don't you find out where there's a demand as a digestive or an aperitif for an Indian single malt whiskey? I said, that's brilliant. So he then sat with the Excise here, then had miniatures made, and he sent a set of miniatures to Newcastle. So I still remember I was writing my exams around that time. It was June, July is the exam period in the UK, and I went over to Customs Bond in Newcastle. I duty paid. I don't remember the amount of duty I paid, but I duty paid and cleared one case for Amrut. And then I did my thesis. It was a live project for the company in Newcastle and also in Glasgow and Edinburgh. In Midlands, I did a lot of my survey as well as London. So most of the survey was in the Indian restaurants, and I did some of the surveys in the bars in Scotland. And that is where, you know, we were confident in the product that we produced, but we wanted the stamp of say approval in the UK, and everybody liked it. There's not a single person who said that this is absolutely poor whiskey. Everybody was saying it's 10-year-old coming from Highland, or some said it's Irish, and when we said it's in Indian, I think it was jaw-dropping Oz. That's when we realized. So I came back home, presented the project to the family board. It took us 2 years to conform to the packaging standards within the European Union.
Right.
And on August 24, 2004, we launched India's first Indian single malt whiskey, Amrut, in an Indian restaurant in Glasgow on August 24, 2004, called Cafe India. And that's how the journey of Amrut as a single malt whiskey began.
Before I just want to spend like maybe a few minutes talking obviously about your father as well. But before that, when the spirits were being matured, at that point of time, like you said, 70s, 80s, and when you basically started doing that, then at that point of time, were you supplying in bulk to other manufacturers or makers, or was it primarily just being utilized for your rum products?
No, we were for brandy and whiskey. What we're distilling was only for captive consumption itself. There's only one time in history that we have exported bulk to Burma.
Okay.
Yeah, this was this was in 2000, and I think it was in 6 when we had accumulated a lot of whiskey, and when the going was so difficult because Amrut had yet to pick up. So I wish we hadn't done that. My father would often say we should have had that stock with us later on. But it was the right decision at that point in time because we needed the cash flow. It helped us. That's the only time in history that we have sold bulk. Other than that, it's been captive consumption.
Right. I know that, of course, you were probably just joined the business at that point of time. But when these casks were being obviously filled and when they were being put to mature, was there at that point of time also a broader vision from your father, keeping in line that, okay, maybe 25 years from now, when this stock really matures, or I mean, 25 is a long time because, as you know, in the Indian subcontinent. But was there a long-term plan vision which was sold in at that point of time itself?
Well, that's a very good question. I think it probably evolved over time, I would say. I think basically Macintosh as a brand was doing well in CSD. So most of the matured malt that was there was being used in Macintosh, and we were using almost 30 to 35% of matured malt whiskey. I'm talking about 3-year-old whiskey going into Macintosh, both peated and unpeated. So we didn't have enough malt whiskey. It was only in 1995, 96, I think, that when, again, going back to Seagram's and Pernod Ricard with Royal Stag, we cut down using heavier malts in Macintosh. We also had to try the line, and we also moved back to blending means of 35% to 10% and 8%.
Right.
So by then, but then probably in 1999, 2000, it dawned probably on him that yes, why not we just go for a single malt whiskey? We should explore that option. So I think yes, it was in the making. I would say.
I understand. Right. I mean, I've had the pleasure of meeting your father a few times, of course, and I fondly remember him so much. Like especially my first conversation with him, I still remember it was at In Spirit the first time. I think that's when I had met you as also for the first time. And we had a 20-25 minute light chat on dinner, and it was really so meaningful. So really appreciate that. How big of a shoes do you think it is for you to fill in his case?
It's extremely challenging. I think the people like him come and set such high benchmarks. It's so difficult to emulate. But if we can do at least get closer to what he has achieved in this existing challenging environment, I think perhaps we would have achieved something. So let's see how things go on.
Right. The first batch of whiskey which you said came to you at Newcastle, do you remember those miniatures? How many were there?
They were exactly.
And what's your fondest memory when you opened it up and when you saw it? Because I'm sure. Did you see the packaging before that?
No.
What was your memory?
It was a black and white label.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a very simple. It said Amrut Indian Single Malt. I don't have a bottle of that to show you. And it was a black and white label, and the color of the whiskey was good. It was not. It was dark enough. So and it was natural. We don't add any caramel in our whiskeys. In our single malt whiskeys, even today, 100% natural. All in all, we had 2 cases that came through. So all in all, there were close to about 300 miniatures. Each one was 60 ml. So yeah, I mean, 300 was, when I had a first initial look at it, I said packaging was very rudimentary, very basic. But the product was exceptionally good. So I was sampling the product more than the packaging at that point in time.
Right.
And people loved it and came back and redesigned the packaging completely. And then we launched Amrut. Yeah.
What was the maturation of those first batch?
The first batch was matured. Average, you can say, is about 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah. It was average about 4 years. We are using a larger percentage of older whiskies. Even now we do that. Because that's why we keep running out of quantity. We don't have that much of quantity now to meet the demand. So on an average, yes, it was little over 4 years, way back in 2002. That's when I did my survey in the UK. So yeah, I mean, it's been 22 years now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I know that Jim Murray was obviously the one who put the fusion on the map, and so as to say, I mean, I think most people credit in that respect where Amrut really became like a very popular international brand. But I want to know from you, and also possibly through you from your father's eyes as well, what is that one product in that portfolio at that point of time which you thought was the best?
Obviously Fusion is a completely different product. It's a combination of peated barley and unpeated barley. Peated barley comes from Scotland. The unpeated barley is obviously the Indian component, an 80-20 ratio. So generally what my father felt was the Indian palate is probably accustomed to a little bit of a hint of peat in their products.
Right.
So black label, for example, or even red label, I would say, has a good amount of peat in it. So people like black label and red label over here in India. So that was in his mind, and at that point in time, the classic, the Amrut Indian Classic, the standard variant was also very good.
Yeah.
But the Fusion was next level. And even today, Fusion is matured for a longer period. Fusion is matured for now 5.5 years, because the base malt on both peated and unpeated is matured for 4 years, and then we marry them and we mature it for another 9 months to a year.
Right.
And in some cases it is even longer. So it's about 5 to 5.5 years now, Fusion. So that's why, you know, you have that depth, the complexity of flavors comes through in Fusion. So perhaps that's what Jim Murray savored when he first tasted Fusion in 2009.
Right.
And it was unique. I think there was no other product in the world, I would say, that had this kind of combination. So he loved it, and he gave it Amrut 97 out of 100 in his Whiskey Bible 2010.
Yes.
And third finest whiskey in the world.
I understand. I think what I think you guys got really right was that I think because it was an Indian spirit, then a little bit of hint of that spiciness as well.
Yeah.
In that respect, I don't think so. That was something which was very pertinent with a lot of malts that you would drink otherwise globally as well, which now has become, of course, really iconic in terms of a lot of the brands, Indian brands now obviously always have a little bit of hint of spiciness, which is so unique and so good, which really brings India to the global map. 1948 to 2025 now, almost 75 years. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhavya.
How do you think that journey as a maker has evolved?
Okay. Well, we humble beginnings in 1948 as a simple blending and bottling company. Moved on to the next level in the 70s when my father joined the business into distillation and premiumization. And the early 2000s got into the segment of single malt whiskies. So I think we've reasonably come a long way. There's scope to create unique products going forward as well. So I think the progress has been reasonably good. We have grown organically and we have grown quite well. So we are happy with the progress at the moment. Yeah.
I understand. How has the blending process in that respect also changed? Is it still, because the reason I ask this is because I want to kind of draw an understanding of how Scottish distillery, wherein they really take pride in their heritage, in the way they make their products, the way they distill their whiskies.
Yes.
And I want to kind of get an Indian perspective as well, that do we still have a lot of tradition in that process even today from Amrut, or it has evolved technologically as well over that span?
See, well, a single malt whiskey is globally is distilled on the similar protocols, whether it's in Japan, whether it's Australia, India, Scotland, or America. So, what we did experiment. Probably we are one of the few distilleries in the world that does a triple distillation as well. Something like Auchentoshan, I think, is triple distilled, if I'm correct. So, and so is the Taiwanese whiskey. So Cavalan, I presume. Yes. Yeah. So we do that on and off, and we have a brand called Amrut Tripower, which is distilled rice and matured for a much longer period, matured for 6-7 years now. So that gives you a different kind of profile. So yes, techniques have evolved over what we will probably say 4 decades. Now with the advent of different varieties of barley, of 2-row barley, of 6-row barley today, and the yeast varietals have undergone massive changes. What was there 40 years ago, what is there today, and distillation technology has also improved. So I think world over, the yield per ton of malt spirit that we were able to extract in say 1980s vis-a-vis today has improved significantly. On an average, in those days, probably we were touching around 360 alcoholic liters per ton, and now I think we're hitting close to 400 alcoholic liters per ton.
Understand.
So it has gone up, and with Scottish malt, it is even higher. We have hit up to 415, 425 alcoholic liters per ton. So, which even the Scotch whisky industry acknowledges the fact. So, yeah, technology, distillation practices, methodologies have changed over a period of time.
I understand.
Yes.
The maturation process, I mean, of course, because of the difference in terms of the temperature.
Indeed.
I know you mentioned that, you basically are marrying it like for a 4-year-old and with like a 9-month-old. So kind of ranging with a 5-year kind of a blend. How much of actually the spirit really remains in the cask at that point of time? Because I know that generally people kind of have a perception, but I think you'd be the best person to answer that, especially when it comes to the Indian subcontinent.
Yeah. Again, maturation, the science of maturation varies from place to place.
Right.
We are blessed to be in Bangalore. Nature has been very kind to us. Bangalore has its own advantages. A is altitude. Bangalore is on an average about 800 meters to 950 meters above sea level. The place where Amrut is currently located is at 730 meters above sea level. So the relative humidity in Bangalore in summer is reasonably high, but in winters it drops significantly. It drops. You can make that up because your skin gets very dry, and that plays a very interesting role. So we lose the angel share in our warehouses is at an average of 9% every year. Yeah, and the interesting part in Bangalore, which I don't see is witnessed anywhere else, probably it happens maybe in Kentucky, probably it might be happening. We lose water than alcohol. So what happens is we barrel our whiskeys at 61.5. In 3 years' time, we are hitting 63%. So in 12 years, we recently in the sense, the first time when we bottled Amrut Greedy Angel's 12-year-old, it was already at 72%. So the thumb rule is we're looking at probably a 0.7 to 0.8% increase in alcoholic strength.
Wow.
When you're maturing in Bangalore, I think because of the humidity, we lose more water than alcohol. Whereas if you go down to the coast, anywhere in the coast, or if you mature it in Scotland, it's the other way around, because though Scotland, the temperatures are much cooler, and the angel share is about 2% a year, they lose more alcohol than water. So the strength drops.
Understand.
I think it's got humidity and altitude play a very significant role for us that we are in Bangalore.
If I understand this correctly, it is, say for example, if you filled up the cask to 100%, 9% per year. So at the end of 1 year out, it's 91%.
91%, yeah.
And then by the end of 5 years, it's like, so basically it's about like 42-43% proof is where you kind of reach at the end of 5 years.
If, for example, we keep this often. We barrel our whiskies at 61.5 and it's at 200 liters. That's the capacity of an American oak barrel.
Right.
In 3 years, it's the quantity has dropped to about 135 to 140 liters. It's 135. So the strength has gone up to 63.5%. So that's on an average 9 to 10%. You can say on an average, yeah.
I understand.
For a place like Bangalore, but I think it varies state to state.
Of course, absolutely.
It varies place to place as well.
Absolutely. Who do you think is your consumer today of your product?
I think globally we see a lot of youngsters have taken up to single malt whiskey in a very big way. And especially in the United States, in India, in Europe, you see a lot of youngsters now enjoying single malt whiskies. And one thing that we have witnessed across the globe is with the advent of the internet, the knowledge levels of the consumers has gone up significantly. When we attend exhibitions, in fact, we get caught unaware sometimes when they ask us some tricky questions and we're not able to answer that. We feel quite embarrassed, and they know the answer. So that's how today, especially for single malt whiskies, they like their whiskey, they study their whiskies a lot. They know what is happening much better than us at times. So that keeps us on our toes. So the consumer profile has changed. They're more younger and they're willing to spend a little bit more and drink better quality and lesser quantity. So I think health consciousness has seeped in to a large extent, so which is a good thing.
Yeah. But previously, like you mentioned, that in terms of the proofing as well, of course, you're lucky because Bangalore has much better weather conditions as compared to rest of India. Is there still then a deliberate strategy on part of Amrut to kind of release more of small batch whiskies as compared to what you can possibly do? I'm just trying to understand, is it because there's not enough whiskey, or there's not enough spirits, or is that a pivot in terms of like the strategy?
We do come up with special edition whiskies, but extremely limited quantity. In quantities where we allow the whiskies to mature for much longer. We do a lot of single casks, but then that's again limited and it's only meant for export because single casks are bottled at high strength. In India, as you know, we cannot go above 50%.
Yes.
The ceiling is 50. Having said that, but 99% of the malt that we mature goes into the regular core range that we have. The Amrut Classic, Fusion, Amrut Peated, the cast strength variants of these two versions. So the 5 core variants that we have. So it's a nice problem to have, as they keep saying, you don't have enough quantity to meet the demand. So, but then again, we do special batches, but not that much.
Right. So it's not a deliberate effort.
No,
it's just purely because of where. Because there's a general popular belief that, and I don't just say it's only with Amrut. I'm saying it with most what you call Indian Single Malts. It's there's a popular belief that because when you, and again by thumb rule of marketing strategy, that when you kind of create like limited and you create limited supply, there's a higher demand, more volume, so naturally it gives you a lot more eyeballs as well and makes it a lot more interesting to get.
Now initially people were wondering whether we were deliberately undersupplying the market to create the demand, but that wasn't the case.
I understand.
I mean, no businessman would like to say no to business that's coming. Everybody would want to sell more of their product. But then probably it pushed us to a corner where we didn't have enough whiskey. Even now is the case.
I understand.
So let's see going forward what happens.
Have there been any steps that have been taken to change this or mitigate?
Yeah, absolutely. In 2018, we trebled our distillation capacity. Now we are doing close to 900,000 liters. But now coming from this year, 2025 April onwards, we have added another 35% to it. So we will be doing anything between 1.3 to 1.4 million liters that will be distilling. Still small compared to some of, obviously can't compare to Scotland. The 20 times our volume they'll be distilling minimum. I'm sorry, 20 times. But even in India, I mean, people have set up massive capacities now and enhanced existing capacities as well, which is a nice thing to do. So being a closely held family concern, so we would like to play the wait and watch game as we move along.
Have you ever thought of diluting your stake a little bit in?
I know that the question was probably would be coming at some point in time. Well, there has been a lot of interest in Amrut over the past 6-7 years. So we haven't taken that call. We have discussed it at the family board meeting, board level, but we haven't yet taken that decision yet. But as I know, we cannot shy away from it for too long. So it's a question of time. Let us wait and see what happens.
Yeah, because also primarily, like as I mean, of course it's Amrut, and then naturally I think one of your closest competitors, Paul John, as well.
Yes.
I think largely, after you, they were the ones who were responsible also to,
Indeed,
take,
absolutely. Yes, yes.
take India to the global map.
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
now, as you know, that they've obviously sold a lot of stake at a really good valuation
Yeah.
as well.
Yes, yes.
So it is kind of the inclination, and also I think, as you rightly pointed out, that there's a question in everybody's mind as well, in that respect. But in terms of that internal conversation also that you've had thus far within the family, at what level of what you call seriousness is it? Is it like in the offing in the next few years, or is it we are still looking at a longer term perspective?
No, at the moment we're looking at a long-term perspective on this. Nothing immediate.
Got your point.
Yes.
And at any point of time, if you take an investor or a partner in, I mean, I'm assuming it'll be more of an investor, but are you looking at only an investor to dilute some stake, or is it more like what you call a partner who can also add value addition?
It's the second one.
Second
one. It's a partner who will add value to the brand, who will add value to market accessibility both ways. And also who will add value in on the production side, technology side as well. So it's long term, long term partnership. If at all we are looking at that.
I understand. Right. Have there ever been thought in your head where you can possibly? I know because some of the companies, especially in India, like for example, if you take yourselves. I'm not going to include like Paul John anymore, but if I look at some other players which are significantly bigger, like Radico and stuff, they've also obviously been a family-owned business.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah, and then they've kind of gone like a route in terms of like IPO now, of course, with EBIDTA as well.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that somewhere there is that thought or that has come into your head.
Yes.
Where are we at?
I think IPO is another area, as we have been discussing. We have discussed it at the family level, but then we haven't yet taken a call. So either a partnership or an IPO is something that we cannot shy away from for a long period of time. So the timing should be right, I think. I personally feel we're not there as yet for both. So probably give another couple of years more, I think we'll have to take that call.
Understand. What is the bifurcation in terms of the international and national business today for Amrut?
Okay. See, international business from overall company perspective, if you look at, we are at 5%. This year, probably it's 95 India, 5% exports, because we do, starting from our mass market brands right up till Amrut, the Expedition we are producing today. But if you look at the luxury division, where single malts are there, the split is 65 India and 35 export. Yeah. So
what percentage of the luxury products makes the portfolio?
The overall luxury division today, we are looking at roughly about, I think we are near about 25%.
Okay.
75 is still deluxe and mass market brands. 25% is luxury, pure luxury. When I mean luxury, our range of single malt whiskies and amalgam malt whiskey. So this is what we are terming it as luxury, where the recoveries are quite good.
Can you break down the portfolio for us inside these segments? Like for example, as you mentioned, inside luxury is amalgam and the single malts.
Yeah.
And then what's the other?
We have from that, if you come down one notch, you have the premium range.
Right.
You have Macintosh, Silver Edition whiskey. You have the 2 Indies rum. Then you have Nilgiri's dry gin. So there's that's the premium range that we have. And if you come down one notch further, you have the mass market brands like Amrut XXX rum, Silica Brandy, our 2 heritage brands, Prestige fine whiskey. You have again Macintosh is also there at the semi-premium level as well. So yeah, I think the split, I think, would be probably 60, would be 70% would be in the economy from a volume point of view.
Right.
70-80% would be from top line point of view would be the economy range, and 10% would be the semi-premium and premium, and luxury is about 25%.
Got your point.
Yeah.
Right. Congratulations, of course, on the expedition.
Thank you.
I mean, when I saw the bottle, I really thought, I mean, unfortunately, I haven't tasted the spirit, and I don't think so. I think I will get to as well, but I would love to. But apart from the spirit, I'm sure, I thought the bottle was genuinely a piece of work. Can you just tell us about what did you guys marry in terms of like to create the expedition, in terms of the blend?
Yeah. See, the expedition is matured for 15 years. Initially, it's matured for about 8 years in a sherry cask, a first fill sherry cask,
right.
And then it's recast into a first fill bourbon barrel for another period of 8 years. So, say 7 years, I'm sorry. So, 8 plus 7 is 15. So, yeah, I mean, that's the uniqueness about. So, it's matured in 2 different barrels. And the uniqueness is that we have just 75 bottles for the entire world.
Right.
It's and rest of it is gone away as the angel share. We are very happy, and happy angels in our warehouses. They keep blessing us though with very good whiskey every time.
Yes, absolutely. So 75 bottles. What's the allocation?
Allocation is 9, just 9 for India.
I believe 2 have already been sold.
Yeah, 2 have already been sold. 9 for India, and rest of it is for Europe, America, and the APAC region, Asia Pacific region.
And it's priced at?
It ranges roughly between $11,000 to $12,000 a bottle. US dollars a bottle.
Understand. So that's close to about 10.5.
Yes,
today's
10.5 in today's exchange rate into the rupees. Yeah.
Got your point. Understand. In terms of the business, can you break down outside of India?
Okay.
What are the highest selling or max grossing business for Amrut in terms of like countries?
In terms of countries, USA is number 1, and followed by Europe, and then we have the Asia Pacific region. So United States as a whole is doing reasonably well for us. We are very happy about that. There's a lot of scope there for growth. Europe, of course, was doing really, it was number 1. Now they have slipped one tad lower. So there's always competition between the US and Europe. So hopefully over a period of time, probably APAC region will also pick up. That's also a growing market for single malt whiskies. So let's wait and see what happens going forward.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about numbers. What is the current business that Amrut is doing overall?
Overall, we do about 6.2 million cases, 62 lakh cases is what that we do per annum.
Understand.
Yeah.
And in terms of turnover?
Turnover, it's hovering now, touching about 550 crores net revenue, net sales.
Is that net?
Yeah.
EBITDA?
Gross, we do close to about 1700 now. 1750 is gross.
Understand.
Net sales is about 540, 550.
Understand. Yeah. What are the projections for the next few years?
I think we're looking at growing at least at 10 to 15% in the next year and year after that. So yeah, I mean, I'm quite confident we should be able to sustain those growth levels going forward. Having said that, bottom lines are extremely important. We can chase turnover with economy range brands. It's you don't need a magic wand or something for that. But we are very conscious of a bottom line. We want to have a very strong EBITDA going forward, which already it is. We are quite happy with it, but we're not. I'm personally not happy. So there's scope for the luxury and the premium range to grow significantly, which will further strengthen our bottom lines. Yeah.
I understand. It's interesting that you mentioned this because it kind of brings a thought into my head, in terms of like pricing as well, from that perspective, I kind of want to talk about the pain points that, of course, most of the makers face when it comes to excise.
Yes.
Naturally, I think any conversation with on this regard cannot escape the excise purview. I'd love to talk about that. But before that, I kind of also just want to get an idea that is there an attempt, because like say for example pricing of like a fusion,
Right.
or say amalgam or like a classic Amrut in the Indian market is very, depending on the state, but I'm taking an average like maybe around 3 to 3.5, 3,000 is the rupees 3,000 is what is my estimate correct?
The duty part?
Not the duty part, in the pricing, the
Okay.
MRP of the
MRP of, yeah, roughly about 3,000, yeah.
3,000,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Is there a scope to, especially for the Indian this thing, because as you mentioned that most of the, and I'm assuming this, please correct me if I'm wrong, the international market for these sort of products is a lot more popular as compared to the Indian segment?
Yes,
Indian
please.
consumer?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
do you think it's because probably of the parity in terms of price point, and is there scope to bring that price down a little bit so that you can make it a more broader?
I think that might happen eventually with the FTA coming in. It's
You've just opened up another thought.
Oh my God, that's interesting. So the FTA is certainly around the corner. We can't run away from it forever.
Right.
So that will pose a fair bit of challenges for the Indian single malt whiskey category, with brands like Glenlivet, Glenfiddich coming down and from their current levels.
Yeah.
We don't know what is going to be their strategy going forward, but that will put pressure on us probably to come down a tad, maybe 500,000 rupees less than what we are currently selling. But we never know what happens. We must wait and see.
Do you think that's a blessing in disguise? Because that will open up a much bigger market as well in terms of
it will, but then bottom lines get compromised to a very large extent. So, which none of us are keen to do. There's certain benchmark that we've already established.
Yes.
The other way of looking at it, if you flip the coin the other way around, I think if prices drop for BIO single malts from Scotland, so be it. We are Indian single malts and we like to be at what it is. I think we should stay put, because India is the only market for, I'm talking about Indian single malts,
right,
where we are cheaper than our Scottish peers.
Right.
Abroad, whether it's Europe or America, we are significantly higher. If you take a standard 12-year-old single malt whiskey in America is roughly about $35 to $40 a bottle. Indian single malts, all of us start at about $55 a bottle and go up.
And that's primarily because of the duty structure.
No, there's no duty. It's primarily because that's how we have segmented ourselves, positioned ourselves. So it is from a pricing point. It is Japanese, Indian, and then the Scottish single malt whiskey from a pricing point of view. So that's where we are slotted in at the moment.
What are your thoughts on Japanese whiskies?
Oh, they are good.
Yeah.
They're very good. And very pricey though.
Yeah.
But they are exceptionally good, no doubt.
I mean, I think they also epitomize in terms of like all the great stuff that a lot of the Indian manufacturers and especially you guys are doing. Similarly, because of the heritage tradition, the process, I think they're really meticulous in that as well, which really, and plus they have great climate as well. So
absolutely wonderful climate.
Right. From a perspective of this FT that you mentioned, I know you mentioned that it could be a blessing in disguise, or you could possibly stay put. But it also might open up a much broader segment in that respect for a consumer, which might prompt them. Like as you were saying, that these days a lot of the younger people, especially, and considering that we are adding almost, if I'm not mistaken, the number like maybe 2-3 million legal drinking age youngsters every year onto this segment. So do you not think that will become a very broad portfolio, which a lot of Amrut can also target?
I think you're right. The entire category of premium alcohol will grow once that happens. It's once again consumer preference, what the consumer would prefer at that point in time. When Scotch BIO Scotch and Indian Single Malts are viewed on the same platform, the same pricing point of view. So it's anybody's guess of what's going to happen. So we have to wait and see.
Understand.
Wait and see. We don't know.
How do you think the Indian single malt category and the market today in India has evolved? Like, I know that initially, of course, it was just you and then Paul John.
Yeah.
And now, of course, you have like Indri Piccadilly and like so many more who are naturally coming into the fray and like, creating their own version, which are really good as well.
Yes.
How do you think that has evolved?
Well, I mean, everybody wants to be in India now. I think they cannot neglect India. So most of the major companies now, you talk about Diageo, they have Godawan. Pernod itself is setting up Asia's largest single malt whiskey distillery in Maharashtra.
Yeah.
There are a host of Indian distillers themselves who are going to come up and launch their own range, their own brands of single malt whiskey. I'm sure another at least 5 to 7 new Indian single malt whiskies will hit the shelf within the next 2 to 3 years. And there are other multinationals also who are keen in setting up shop in India. Ian McLeod has started their distillery in Himachal.
Yeah.
So now probably they cannot take India lightly. They all want to be in the Indian single malt whiskey space. So something that we pioneered 22 years ago. We were happy to note that large companies, multinationals have taken note of that, and they would like to jump on the Indian single malt whiskey bandwagon. So that goes to show that that they are serious, and we are also serious about what we are doing. So it will be an interesting phase in the industry. What I think we will all be witnessing over the next 2 to 3 years and beyond.
That's right. Deep down, but are you happy, or do you feel that less competition is better? Sorry for my problem.
No. I think it's both ways. I think competition keeps you on your toes, keeps you thinking. You have to get more creative. You have to improve your processes quickly and rapidly to rise up to the occasion, meet the challenges. Healthy competition is most welcome. Unhealthy is something that companies like us, we're not accustomed to, and hopefully it doesn't go down that path going forward. Yeah.
Right. You mentioned earlier that in 2006 or 7, there was only once when you actually exported bulk. Do you think that is not something which is not ever going to happen? Because the thing is, because as the reason I'm asking this is because the category is expanding. There are more players who are obviously coming in. The opportunity in terms of who's already placed their cask and who's maturing those spirits over a period of time can possibly be in a much more bigger advantageous position wherein they can obviously supply elsewhere as well. I know stocks are limited for Amrut as well.
Yes.
But do you see that as a viable path maybe sometime?
I think, yes, I think bulk is an area that we should also explore. Set up a new distillery which predominantly focuses on the bulk market as well. I mean, the Scotch whisky industry also has the bulk blended malt Scotch, and you have single malt that they bottle in Scotland. So, so we should also probably, from an Amrut perspective, we are also seriously looking at the bulk side. It's only thing we have to wait and watch what happens, the impending FTA, and then move forward.
I understand.
Yeah.
Right. From a perspective of excise, okay, let's talk a little bit about, because I know that most manufacturers, I mean, although it's a great opportunity and of course it's a great business to be in, that's also one of the unfortunate challenges that makers like you obviously have to deal with. Where is your general thought in that respect? I mean, what do you think are the key pain points and how can they be improved?
We are a heavily regulated industry in this country. I think time has come to deregulate it state-wise to a large extent. Technology is available today. We are not in the 1950s, 60s where you still hold on to laws that were framed by the British and go by that. I think there is a massive trust deficit that is there between the government and the Alcobev industry. So I'm hoping that over a period of time, that perception that governments have on this industry would change. Hopefully, I think maybe in my lifetime, I would like to see that happening. But we don't know. It's a state subject. Each state wants to tax it every year. So we have to wait and see what happens.
Understand. But is today's government, or at least like today's state government, much open to at least listening the perspective of like a CIABC, etc., as compared to what they were earlier?
Oh yes, yeah. They are willing to listen to us. They are willing to amend certain rules, not bend them, but amend it. And so that it's a win-win situation for the government as well as for the industry. So we have to just.
There's hope.
Hope. There is hope. That's the right word.
Yeah. I actually had asked Vinay this as well, and I want to kind of get your perspective. Okay, on a price of rupees say 100 of a product that Amrut manufactures, can you give me a breakdown of what is the amount of tax that you pay, and then what would be probably the production cost, and then like the bottom line?
Right.
You know.
If you look at let's say state of Karnataka, the maximum volume is in the 500 rupee range. That is 500 rupees per case. And currently, every supplier is losing money in that range, not making anything. That is roughly about 10 rupees a bottle is what we get. 48 nips, 180 ml are there in a case. So I'm rounding it off, roughly about 10 rupees a nip. So what is 10 rupees? Today is retailing at 80 rupees.
Wow.
Yeah. So 10 rupees is what we get. Retailer gets 10% margin only. So even if you look at 10 and if you add another 8 or 7, 17, if you remove that, 63 rupees the government earns.
Wow.
So easy. We are getting 500 rupees a case. The government revenue is 6 times. 3,500 rupees is what the government gets per case. Wow. So I think I do understand government. They have their own welfare programs which they have to run. We appreciate that. They have to run the government with it. So, but there has to be a balance going forward, and let's see. We don't know what the government will do going forward. This I'm talking about being specific Karnataka. It changes state to state.
Of course.
South India, in comparison to North, on alcohol, taxes are extremely heavy. I mean, talking about the West Coast, including Maharashtra and all, it's extremely heavy tax. But North India, Delhi, Punjab, the taxation is less on alcohol. So there's a massive divide in North and South on the Alcobev policy is concerned.
I understand.
So I don't know. Let's see.
If we break it down into a product, like say in Karnataka, okay, I know you gave me an instance from a barrel perspective, but if you break that down into like just a product, say for example, if there's Amrut Whisky, which is today at rupees 100, so out of that 100, if you can give me a breakdown, what goes to comes to you, what goes to the retailer, what goes to the government, so that brings it into like a product perspective for our viewers as well.
If you're looking at 100 rupees a bottle is what we are going to get. It's about 1,200 rupees a case. Say 100 rupees we get. In that segment,
I mean, if 100 rupees is the MRP,
100 rupees
bottle
is MRP of one bottle.
Yes. Then
100 rupees is MRP of one bottle. We get roughly about 11 rupees is what the manufacturer gets, right? The government gets roughly about 85 rupees.
Wow, that's in Karnataka.
That's in Karnataka, and the retailer gets 9 rupees. So that's how.
Plus you have to
that is how your 100 rupees is split.
Understood.
So government is the biggest beneficiary. I mean, generally, it's that's how it is
It
world
is the
over.
way it is, right? True.
As far as alcohol and tobacco is concerned.
I
Yeah.
understand, yeah. But I mean, like, then obviously all the manufacturers and makers have their own overheads. They have obviously
Yes,
their operating costs,
course.
capex, opex, and all of these things, which
Yes. Yeah.
naturally create a lot of what you call challenge as well. Okay. I want to kind of like what do you call not dampen the spirits, and I don't not want to talk only about, of course, excise. I really wish and hope that all the state regulators and of course the governments, they kind of what you call find some sort of a middle ground. But as you said, I'm really happy that they're at least now
open to dialogue,
which can only be positive.
Yes, which can only be positive. Yes.
Yeah. So that's, I think, the knight in shining armor. From a perspective of a very general and straightforward question, considering, like, say, for example, using the example of 11 rupees being coming to a manufacturer or a maker, Amrut, I know the answer to this question, but I still want to ask for the viewers. Is it a profitable business to be in today? Would you recommend somebody who wants to enter this business?
What I would recommend if anybody wants to get into the business is to get into the premium side and the luxury side, mainly luxury. It's not worth it to be in the mass market because mass market brands, because you can probably achieve volumes in the next couple of years probably, but then you're not going to make any money out of it. So it's better, anybody who's keen, anybody who wants to start something, is better they do on the luxury side. But then again, things take time in this industry. If you talk about luxury, it has to be single malt whiskey, or it has to be a good blended malt whiskey, priced at about 3,000 rupees a bottle. And if you want to do everything on your own, it takes minimum 4 years. So you should have the patience and the ability to invest for that long time. It's I would say yes, but anybody who's keen, they should get into the luxury side, not on the mass market.
What is the sort of investment that we are talking about?
See, if a minimum, if you look at investing in, say, a very small plant, say 1,000 liter malt distillery plant per day, 1,000 liters per day, I'm looking at a 25 crore investment today. That is just the capex. And on top of that, you need a recurrent investment, working capital into distilling and laying that stock, and also you need to invest in setting up, building new warehouses, in maturation warehouses where you need casks to mature them. So and there's no guarantee that the product will succeed in 4 years' time, but you should be in it for the long haul. You should have that wherewithal to withstand. But it will take time. There are no quick fixes in this industry.
True. But do you think that if maybe, of course, whiskey is not, or malts is not probably the best business, especially in the beginning,
Right.
What are the other areas or what are the other segments or product lines where you can possibly enter and then build from there?
Gin is an area. We have seen a proliferation of gin brands coming in India, especially from Goa, which is a good thing. The category grew rapidly, and newer gins are coming up. So you don't need to spend that much time. But then again, you should make a dent in the market. You should be recognized. Apart from that, I think the other areas, if it's rum is another category that's slowly picking up, matured rum category. So that again takes time. You need to, again, you can launch to have some cash flow that will come in. You can start off with a white rum to begin with.
Right.
And vodka is another category that you can look at the premium end. So these are the areas where if anybody wants to enter, they can enter. And then they can slowly pick up with white spirits, then get into brown and dark spirits later on as we move along.
I understand. Yeah. 3 lessons that and I want a really short answer in terms of 1 to 3. Yeah. 3 lessons that you've learned so far being at the helm of Amrut.
You need to have a lot of patience in our industry. You should carry people along with you as much as possible. And you have to innovate. Consumers today want something new. If you're able to give that extra and come up with something new every time, I think these are the three core things, please. Yeah.
Understand. The reason I ask this is because I kind of want to take you back a little bit in terms of, your father. What is the fondest memory that you have with him when it comes to the business?
I think fondest memory would be definitely launch of single malt whiskey in Glasgow, 2004. I think that will be one of my fondest memories. Yeah, so something that nobody had ventured to do earlier. It was first time somebody from India wanted to do, and I think personally, yes, that would be something on the top. Yeah.
Yeah. What are the lessons that you think you've learned from him?
Once again, I think humility is something that I learned a lot from my father, being humble, and as I mentioned, a lot of patience as well that we require in this industry, because regulations are so tight that it pushes you to the corner now and again. But it's always we have to take certain things with a smile most of the time in our industry. So I think and the forbearance to do something, keep innovating, keep doing something new every time. So I think that's something that I learned from him. And hard work comes. I think there's nothing you can achieve without hard work.
True. Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the best qualities also that I've actually kind of, when I met him as well, when the first time I met you as well, and like over a period of time when I met you guys, I think humility is something which is so keen and so clear it just does not come across in terms of like the conversation. It's everything in terms of like the demeanor, in terms of like how you talk to other people as well. I think it's something which is really commendable.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's just something which really comes out so naturally, and it is just impossible to miss. And I know the first time that I met your dad as well, it was very similar. The reason is because I had also, the first time when I met him, I just started out on the business. I was just like 2-3 years after working outside. And I was also just trying to learn the ropes in my company itself as well. And at that point of time, those 15-20 minutes that I spoke to him, it was so interesting. I didn't feel as if I was speaking to someone who's already been in this industry for so long, because he kind of understood the level that he needs to come to in order to speak to me. Someone who's inexperienced at this point of time in this industry, and what's the sort of conversation that you need to have. So I really remember that conversation so nicely. That's the sort of lasting impact that people kind of leave on you. So that's been really great. So that's why I've not shared this with even my father.
I see.
This is the first time I'm actually sharing this. But nonetheless, it's very interesting. How is it that you've kind of would like to leave your mark on Amrut?
Well, good question.
I'm sure you've thought of it.
I mean, there's a legacy that both my grandfather and my father have built. We have to safeguard that legacy and take it forward. That itself, being a family-owned business, is a challenge in itself. Like I mentioned, they have come up with such high benchmarks. They have set, both of them. At least if you can achieve something of what they have done, that will be an achievement in itself. So yeah, I think try and be. We can't be a carbon copy of them, but at least we can try and come close. If I'm able to achieve that, I think I'll be reasonably happy, I would say.
Understand. How important is family if they are part of the business in that respect. The reason is because, as compared to a lot of the MNCs, naturally they have an international board, and obviously their representatives like CEOs and stuff like that. Everybody basically has a certain stake in naturally the company and obviously what the growth strategy is. But in comparison with that, with someone who's a family-owned business, it's very different.
Indeed.
And then you always require a lot of what you call trusted people who can, not that people who are not family are not like that.
I know.
Yeah. So but then how does that put you at ease?
Well, I think world over we are seeing this large companies that are family run.
Right.
They have got a lot of people within the family, whether they're brothers, cousins, nephews, nieces are there in the family business. Unfortunately, we don't have that at the moment here at Amrut. But I would like that to grow. Hopefully, the next generation would be keen to get into the family business and carry the legacy forward. If more people are able to do that, it's better. So, like I said, let's wait and see what the younger generation has. This is a different kind of generation. They have different priorities going forward. So, it's something. It's a good question, but very difficult to answer at this point in time.
I understand. Yeah. Any inclination? I know your son's too young.
But I think time is right now for us to start discussing with my niece and my son. My second niece is still very young.
Yes.
My brother-in-law's and my sister's daughter, she's still young. So, but with the other two, I think time is ripe now, probably to start engaging and see whether there's a prima facie interest in getting into the family business. So let's
because
see.
I think there is a lot in terms of that generation as well. Like, for example, I will not name them, but there are a few manufacturers who obviously are doing a lot of IMFL based out of Chennai and so on, and everybody's kind of, the next generation has entered into the business and they're really creating a lot more impetus in that respect. Processes, the output, the operational efficiency as well. So all of those things really. What are near-term and long-term objectives currently?
Near-term is, I think, long-term is to focus on, I can mention, premium and luxury. That is the focus. And near-term also, we are not looking at entering any other areas that is apart from premium and luxury. So, long-term, I think we should take the company at least maybe in the next 10 years to at least 1,000 crores net sales. So, and with a very strong bottom line. Yeah, that's the subject.
Understand. Great. Thank you so much, Rakshit.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Conversation.
Thank you again.
I hope you had fun.
Yes, absolutely.
It's really good.
Thank you so much for coming all the way from Bombay. And my respects to your father always.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Respected father, and my father had a special bond, and we also share that bond with you now and with your father as well.
Thank you so much.
Most welcome.